Hello everyone, my name is Nicholas Anthony, and this week I want to talk to you about painting miniatures. Now, where we want to start with miniatures is how to properly clean them and prep them for priming. And first, we need to take a look at the sprue. Now, a sprue is a grid of plastic that contains all the parts to your miniature. Whether it's the base to the head, everything you need should be contained within the grid. If not, it'll be an add-on in a small bag onto the side. While you're removing your pieces of your miniature from your sprue, you want to make sure that you use the flat edge of the clippers to press against the miniature to get as much of the excess off the piece you want. After you've clipped out all of your pieces, you're going to want to smooth out that edge. The easiest way is with a file, and simply just rub it across the edge to make sure that it is flat and smooth. You want to make sure you do this with all pieces coming out of the sprue, because when you go to prime and paint, you don't want any disfigured pieces or random little bumps coming off of your miniature. Most miniatures will come with basic instructions on how to assemble the miniature you purchased. Some instructions will appear on the back of the box, others will have instructions printed on paper inside the box, and some don't come with any instructions and leave it to you to figure it out, almost like a three-dimensional puzzle. You can use just about any crazy glue or fast drying glue to assemble your miniatures. I enjoy DAP Rapid Fuse. That works very well, and if you are looking for a suggestion, that's what I would advise. After you've pieced your miniatures together, you're going to want to give them a coat of primer. Now, I tend to use white because all colors go on to white very fresh and crisp. It's always a lot easier to make a miniature darker than it is to try to make it lighter from a previous mistake or from shading. When choosing a paint, you should always use something you're familiar with. My preference is Citadel paints, and I use paintbrushes made by a company called the Army Painter. The size brushes I use are anywhere between 0 and 1, but you can use just about anything you prefer. When I start painting my miniatures, I always do my best to make sure that I pick simple colors and use a technique that I call from the inside out or from deep to shallow. The idea here is that you want to find the layer on the miniature in which sits the deepest. For example, the dwarf's pants. You'll want to paint the dwarf's pants before you paint the boots or his shirt. The reason being is as you move to the next color and paint over that new section, it'll be much easier to paint a layer that's further out on the miniature rather than later on trying to reach back in and repaint it. Once you've gotten the basic color scheme of your miniature down, it's okay to recognize that you may have to go back and touch up some areas that have overlapped, or add additional layers of a color to strengthen and define what it looks like. For example, in this particular miniature, I had to repaint the shield 3 times in order to get that very nice brown. On the skull, I had started with the regular skull color, came back and dotted the eyes green, painted over the backside with a watered down green color, and then came back through again and dry brushed some of the screaming skull color back over the top of the skull to give it a slightly green hue. an interesting effect. Finally, I use something called a shade. This particular color is nun oil, and the purpose of this is to darken all the deep crevices and anything that would lay in as a shadowy area. This will help define and make edges pop and make the miniature more dynamic, sitting in the color scheme that I set it in. As you can see, a quick application changes the miniature drastically. The final step would be to allow the Nuln Oil to dry and to come back and dry brush some of the original colors back over the very edges to add in highlights and to make the miniature pop that much more. As you can see, following these simple steps, you don't need to be a professional painter to make your miniatures look good. Just give it a little bit of time and patience, and you can make something look absolutely wonderful. I hope you've enjoyed this little segment on how I paint my miniatures. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you're ever struggling with ideas on what something should look like or what to do with a miniature, I always find inspiration online and digging around different images on what other people have done. But until next time, my name is Nicholas Anthony, and I wish you best of luck in all of your painting.